pase, pierna derecha, directo al arco, ¡golazo! ¡Golazo!
The world of football with a soccer perspective. This is Soccer Today with Duane, Rollins and Kevin Laramee, live on the Sports Podcasting Network.
And good day, good night. Welcome to Soccer Today for Wednesday, November 29th, 2017. Joining us on the show today to talk about MLS Cup playoffs and Houston, Glenn Davis of ESPN Radio in Houston. Glenn, good morning.
Kevin, Duane, good morning. Thanks for having me on. And Soccer Today, soccer every day.
Soccer is every day, indeed, Glenn. Today, obviously, it's tomorrow, I should say. Houston and Seattle will play that second leg with the Dynamo down 2-0. Tell me what your perspective is, what your take is, and how the Dynamo approach that second leg down 2. Do they open themselves wide open at the start, or do they sort of just play their game and try and hope to find a goal early and then deal with the second one?
Yeah, that's a great question. Listen, they obviously laid an egg at home in front of a sold-out crowd and gave up a very poor goal off a corner to set up what is a very difficult situation in Seattle. And I think that's the question. I mean, that is the most compelling question out there. Do you get chaotic early and try to stir this game up and maybe catch Seattle cold off the opening kickoff? They look pretty seasoned and pretty mature at this point of the season when it comes to timing things right. No, I don't think so. I think what you do need and you must get is the game's first goal. If you don't get the game's first goal and get that road goal and at least pose the question of possibility to Seattle, at least see what sort of residual value you get out of that from a self-belief standpoint and a nothing-to-lose standpoint. But that's most important to me. I don't think you have to get it in the first 10 or 15 minutes. It would be nice. But I think you just can't wait until the final 10 minutes to try and get that game's first goal. So I think you'll see an aggressive Dynamo, but I also think you'll see one under Wilmer Cabrera that does have a level of, being a little bit methodical about how to get it, especially in the first half.
The narrative around the Dynamo all year is that this is a great home team, this is a bad road team. If you look at the stats over the second half, it doesn't quite match up that way, but tell me what exactly it is and what exactly it was, I should say, that made the Dynamo struggle on the road so much, and how can they overcome that in Seattle tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, you get all the normal, sort of reasons why teams don't do well in Major League Soccer. Travel, I'm not in my own bed, Crimea River, whatever. I don't think it really matters right now, and I'll tell you why it doesn't matter, because they got a road win in Portland in the playoffs, and to me, the curtain comes down on the regular season. This is a league where you're playing basically 2 seasons, and this is the second season, and really what they have to do is just build off what they did in Portland. Yeah, I know Portland fans are out there going, it was a depleted Portland. Well, you still have to go out there and beat them. So I think they'll make a good account of themselves. They're definitely a team that has some character for sure this year. They do have a fight and a spirit. And if you notice, at the back end of road games during the regular season, they did become a lot more competitive. They had a couple of draws and they were pretty much generally in games.
Glenn, when you're looking at the entire season of the Dynamo this year, what surprised me is the arrival of Cubo Torres. There's been a lot of difficult season with Cubo Torres over the last few, like 2, with drama, with not knowing if he was going to have the dedication needed for the Houston Dynamo to be able to achieve success. We have the answer to that question this year. He did have the dedication, the discipline, and the will to win with Houston. Were you surprised by Cubo Torres in 2017?
Well, I'm going to say I'm not as firm on all of that as you are. I think he had a very good season, obviously. 14 goals when he hadn't produced anything up until this point. I don't believe in the past he had the self-belief of a manager. I don't believe people integrated him properly. I don't think the system behooved him in the past. I mean, if you saw the last 3 years, it was like watching paint dry, and it was a very slow, methodical team and that sat back and kind of tried to play for their counterattack, except they're playing for the counterattack with a team that doesn't have real pace. This year they got the pace to be able to do that. So he was kind of set up to fail, I think. But I also think there's a lot of accountability on his end of things as well. He hasn't scored a lot of goals as of late. He could be a real key fixture in this game coming up. He could be somebody that rises to the occasion and needs to. But, you know, if you look at how, when, where he scored his goals, a lot of them came at the beginning of the year. 5 of them are off penalty kicks. And I'm not downplaying anything he's done, because he set a record for most goals in the season for a Dynamo player. He's just the kind of player that has to be used properly. And by the way, he was being shopped at one point by the Dynamo. I mean, this is just the fact of professional soccer. And he's come back and had a good season under a manager that he had a good season before under. So I do think he could be somebody very important here in the second leg. Let's see what Wilmer Cabrera does with him, because Wilmer keeps us on the edge of our seat here when it comes to the types of lineups he puts out with the rotation policy he has.
One thing that is important in the building of the Dynamo roster right now is the technical director, Matt Jordan, known really well in my neck of the woods in Montreal. How important was this? It took a while. It took a bit of time to make sure this roster was up to where it is right now. Is this playoff run the ultimate goal? Is it this year or never? Basically, I'm asking Glenn, for Matt Jordan's team.
Well, I think the question you're asking is this built to last? And you know, the most important thing to me is, it'd be unbelievable to get to the MLS Cup. If it happens, it's going to shock all of Major League Soccer tomorrow night. But really, you know, after coming out of the doldrums of a number of seasons here where the team lost a lot of relevancy, this was a major jump forward from an on-field product perspective. One that had entertainment, one that had overall team speed with the likes of Elise and Kyoto. One that had players that brought us some real interest. I'm saying that personally as a commentator, and I'm probably speaking for my partner on the broadcast too, and Eddie Robinson. So that standpoint, the revamping of the roster was pretty amazing. If you remember the year before, we were being told that Andrew Wenger and Christian Maidana were going to be the guys that changed the fortune of Houston. And it's no disrespect to those two. Andrew's actually had an outstanding year off the bench this year, and I think more impactful than the prior season, although I know he wishes he was playing more. So I think what we saw here with the hiring of Wilmer Cabrera, contacts in Central America, Mexico, Colombia, and we sometimes forget that when you hire a manager, you're also hiring a guy that, you know, has a network and is capable of getting you players. And that's what Wilmer Cabrera also added here this year. And him and Matt Jordan were able to revamp this roster and really bring us an interesting product, certainly in the earlier stages of the season as well. I think it's actually morphed into and evolved into more of a defensive team, and maybe has gotten a little bit slightly overly defensive.
Glenn, Houston as a city has had a challenging and a spectacular year when you talk about the Astros. I'm wondering sort of where the Dynamo are fitting in the overall narrative of Houston right now. Are they getting a lot of attention because of the run that they've had, or is it still a struggle to sort of get that mainstream sort of recognition?
No, there's no mainstream coverage. I mean, we have to be perfectly, and I'm sorry, but brutally honest. There's no mainstream coverage. You know, you'll get a couple blips on maybe some local stations. We did have a great crowd and a wonderful sellout crowd, which I think has to be the standard bearer for the opening game against Seattle, which was sold out. Every single seat had a body in it. It was the real deal. And there was an excitement on the streets before the game. But that hasn't happened much. And generally the stadium's, you know, half full, a little bit more full. There's a lot of reasons, I think. But, you know, just winning, I think, is something that, you know, we as a league in Major League Soccer think will turn around our fortunes when it comes to relevancy, mainstream media, people coming to games. And I think in this day and age, hate to say it, it takes more than winning. Winning is certainly a big component of it, but it's entertainment, it's all the other ancillary stuff that get people to stadiums now. I mean, you and me, us guys, we're going to go to the game because we want to watch the game. But there's a lot of other things that that have to be connected. And I think the one real question mark down here still remains the fervent support of, this amazing international base of fans we have, and how do we bring them to the MLS table?
As an aside, as a lifelong and relatively insane Blue Jays fan, I'm really jealous of that Astros team. But at any rate, let's move aside from that.
Hey, by the way, those guys, they hooked everybody because of the way they played the game, their personalities. They're out there. Even the non-baseball fan got totally wrapped up into this. And there was an amazing lesson that these guys laid out there if people want to take it when it comes to
how to build
personality, just down-to-earthness, playing the game, respect for the game. This is what I think hooked a lot of people down here.
Oh, no, absolutely. It's one of my favorite non-Toronto sports teams I've ever seen, so I was very happy to see them win. But let's move to Seattle for a second. I want to talk about the Sounders. You've seen them up close in the playoffs. This is the defending champions. It was a bit of a weird run last year. The way that they won that championship game in Toronto was, not artistically pleasant. But do you think that, having seen the Sounders up close, that this is a team that can get the job done again in a couple weeks' time if they get past Houston?
Yeah, first and foremost, I have a lot of respect for the manager, Brian Schmetzer. He has nothing to hide. He comes out, he tells you exactly how they're going to play. He is not taking his foot off the pedal ahead of this Thursday's game. I know that. I know he's constantly reminding people that this is not over and keeping people, booted to the ground and rebooted about this is a second game and things can change very quickly in Major League Soccer. But I was really impressed with them in Houston because they just had a swagger and a maturity to them. Once they got the game's first goal, I just thought they were exceptional with the ball at their feet. They made it very difficult for the Dynamo to get the ball back. And, just very simply, it allowed them to really manage and control the game in Houston to a large degree.
I want to finish the interview, Glenn.
I don't even think we're talking about Osvaldo Alonso anymore because of the performance of Gustav Svensson.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, obviously. One thing I wanted to touch as well before we wrap up, Glenn, is, yes, Texas is big. Texas is very, very big. And it's not necessarily in your neck of the woods, but Texas has been in the news again lately in Major League Soccer with the possibility, or maybe the probability, of the Columbus Crew moving to Austin. I'm wondering, as a Houston perspective, does it change anything?
Well, I would say hashtag save the Crew first. This is a big eyesore for the league. I feel bad for the fans in Columbus. It's going to be interesting how this plays out. It's amazing that the contract had the ability for Precourt to move this team to Austin. From a completely different perspective of creating competition and, with the United States so expansive and big, and even the days I played in the 80s, it was the same thing. It's like, how do you ever get any real rivalry? Because geographically, it's pretty difficult. And we have seen amazing traveling fans in MLS, including, Seattle's fans and Portland fans. But why not? Dallas, Austin, Houston, San Antonio, you can create some natural regional rivalries within the context of an overall league.
Glenn, Soccer Matters, available every week on ESPN Radio, one of the longest running radio show dedicated to soccer. Can you tell us a little bit more about Soccer Matters?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I actually started the program on public radio and then walked into an office at the Clear Channel here in Houston. Guy was like, yeah, I know who you are, and I've seen you do TV and da-da-da-da-da-da-da, but soccer. And I said, well, I got $20,000. He goes, you got a radio show. So that's how it started. It's just built up throughout all the years. We've had great listeners and callers and interviews, same type of work that you guys are doing and growing the sport. It's every Wednesday night, 7 o'clock Central. It streams at ESPN975.com, and we got a Facebook page called Soccer Matters. And like you guys, absolutely love keeping the soccer talk going. And, radio, podcast, very important to the growth of the game.
Glenn, thank you very much for your time today, and hope you have a very entertaining game tomorrow night.
Kevin, Duane, thanks very much for having me on the program.
You are listening to Soccer Today. Follow us on Twitter at Soccer Today SPN and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Sports Podcasting Network. You can find the podcast version of all the shows we do on iTunes, Apple Podcast, Google Play Store, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and anywhere you get your podcast.
And we are back. Duane Rollins with myself, Kevin Laramee. Duane, busy morning in Major League Soccer, busy morning in football in general. I said football because we're going to cross the pond in a second. But before we cross the pond, let's talk about our continent, or our neighbors down south. Now it's official. From 12 down to 4. 4 are remaining. 4 will duke it out on December 6th to figure out who's the 2 to be elected to become Major League Soccer expansion teams.
And look, this isn't particularly shocking, the 4 that we've seen in the final list. It's what we've been talking about all along. In many ways, I don't want to be cynical here, but I'm going to be. We could have, avoided the song and dance prior to this. I think MLS sort of just wanted to have the impression of a race and to narrow it down to the 4 today for a final list. It's, hard to see that they're putting 4 in. So it's hard to see these aren't going to be the 4. They just desperately want Detroit to figure themselves out. That's kind of the one of the 4 that we need to talk about a little bit more.
So yeah, did they announce actually the 4? Because it's always been 2 rounds for 2 teams twice, so that 4 teams, right? That was always the goal since last year when it was announced, right? I remember being there, All-Star Game, that's what it was talked about last year in January, that's what we talked about, right? So 2 rounds of 2 teams. They announced 4 to duke it out, so does it mean that it's going to be those 4 teams anyways? And we're just going to see, wonder who's going to be the first 2 of those 4, and then we know it's going to be either Sacramento and Nashville. So let's put it this way. We didn't even name the cities yet, so let's name the cities, and it's as expected. Quite surprising for me that Detroit made it in, because a few weeks ago when they announced a new partnership, which was the Detroit Lions partnership with Dan Gilbert, which is the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Ooh, sorry. That was my wrap.
Be careful, Duane. I'm going to eject you, I'm going to be petty and eject you, just like LeBron. So Dan Gilbert and the Detroit Lions ownership as well now. I'm surprised because it's not even there's no more talk of a stadium in Detroit. No more soccer-specific stadium. It's about playing at Ford Field, which is the home of the Detroit Lions, which they don't really see victories a lot. So I don't know why you would even play there. Like, who wants to play there? You just lose all the time or get injured. Like, you're gonna throw out your shoulder, I,
as a Torontonian, have a trouble. Detroit is, first off, everyone from down there tells me I say the name of the city wrong, but regardless of that, anyway, I have trouble saying anything positive about that city because I'm a Torontonian and the Tigers destroyed my life back in 1987 when I was a child. But that aside, no. Look, the market is a great market for the league, and they're going to jump over any and all hoops they can to get in there. It is maybe. Not even maybe. It is absolutely the biggest market in the United States they aren't in right now, I think. They're like, name me another one. Maybe.
Well, Phoenix was. Phoenix is technically
maybe,
the one.
But Phoenix is a weird sort of.
But Phoenix doesn't give a damn about sports. People want to play sport. They don't want to watch sports in Phoenix. Like, if I was in Phoenix, I would be playing golf. And after my golf round, I would go cycling. Then I'll go to bed and wake up in the morning and go golfing and go cycling and go to bed. Like, that would be my life if I was in Phoenix. And I understand why you don't want to see a terrible hockey team.
Exactly. It's in Glendale as well. It's not Phoenix proper, but Miami would be the other team there, and there's some news about Miami this week, sort of suggesting that maybe this is never going to happen. But
wait, what did I say? What have I been saying over the last 3 years? It's never going to happen.
Yeah, well, and this is why we don't talk about Miami anymore. Is because we've been talking about Miami. I've been talking about Miami since the ICF days, okay? So, whatever.
At least since that terrible press conference. That terrible press conference with, Beckham, Garber, 2 supporters. They're probably, people walking down the street like, hey, you guys are busy? You got 5 minutes? Come here.
When was that? That was 6 years ago now.
It's 3-4 years ago. Put this around your shoulder. What is it? It's MLS in Miami. Come in the press conference. We need fans, Oh, that was a terrible press conference.
Anyhow, all right.
Expansion. So Detroit. Now
back to the topic at hand.
Detroit, Nashville, Sacramento, and I'm drawing blanks here. Jeez, help me out.
Give
me a second. You talk. I got this.
Hold on. Yeah. Well, I'll continue with Detroit.
Sacramento.
Look,
Cincinnati is the other one.
Yeah, exactly. And we've talked a lot about Sacramento and Cincinnati in the recent days.
Yesterday.
We talked about Cincinnati yesterday. And look, Sacramento and Cincinnati and Nashville, for that matter, are organic. These are things that came out of the blue. When you're talking about Detroit, this is the one that they're trying to make fetch happen, right? Like, there's not a lot other than the ownership and the fact that it's a market that they want to be in. There's not a lot there pointing to the fact that they should be there. But I understand from a geographical, from a market size, from a TV, from an everything perspective, why they want in there. It is a perfect geographical fit for this league right now. You think about it's a natural rival for Chicago. It's a natural rival for Toronto. You've got sort of it's a four-sport city, right? So add that fifth. And MLS wants to be talked about in the same way that the NBA, the Major League Baseball, the NHL, and football, the NFL are talked about, right? So you get into a city that has all of those teams, and I think that it makes that perspective, that major, puts the major back into Major League Soccer's sort of perspective. Does Sacramento, does Cincinnati do that? Not as much.
Well, Cincy kind of, because, there's the Reds.
The Bengals.
And the Bengals.
And the Reds, yeah.
Yeah, that's about it. But no, it's interesting. So, out of those four, for me, there's two choices that stand out as the first two. And the reason being, they're ready maybe tomorrow to have that team play in that city. And drum roll, if it was me, if I was Don Garber, the first two out of the four would be Detroit and Sacramento.
Detroit, really? Okay.
They got Ford Field. They don't have to build anything. You can just say, okay, we give you kits, we give you shoes, go play.
They can play tomorrow. Yeah. And that also adds the East-West sort of thing, so you can keep the conferences balanced, which is also important. I think that Cincinnati and Sacramento make some sense in the sense that these are the two organic sort of fan bases that are out there right now that sort of have earned their way in, and they want to follow that Portland model. This whole bid has reminded me a little bit of the Portland-Seattle or Portland-Vancouver expansion situation, where you have Portland. Portland at the time was the surprise because I think there was an understanding that they wanted to, Joey made everyone angry in the league, so that's why Montreal was sort of, they slapped them on the wrist and made them wait a year, but they were clearly going to solidify the Canadian market at that point. So Vancouver made sense. Portland was out of the blue, and it had everything to do with their fan base, and Sacramento has the sort of same situation as does Cincinnati. So I can see the league going, okay, we want this major market. We're going to do everything in our power to make it happen, be in Detroit, as I said. But we're also going to include these two peripheral markets that we didn't necessarily think about because of this fan base that exists out there, so that we can continue to propel this notion that we have these hardcore, insane, dedicated fans that force their way in. Promotion and relegation doesn't exist, as we well know, but if you make good tifo, you might find your way in. That's pro rel in North America. Good tifo.
We should stop saying that. There's no relegation. But if you have money, well, there is promotion.
It's promotion.
That's how we have. Technically, this is a fact.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right.
But that's fascinating to me is the timing of that announcement as well. So we'll see. Cincinnati with the announcement yesterday that the city is willing to spend money on the infrastructures to build a stadium. So that's all well and good. There's going to be one soon and probably another. We'll see when. It's probably going to be what? We're already 2018 next year. So 2019, 2020 probably. Maybe one in 2019, one in 2020. And Miami's not going to happen. We'll see which two out of the four but it will be interesting. Speaking of games that will be interesting today, Duane, tonight, MLS Cup playoffs are back, and after 3 weeks of waiting, Giovinco Altidore back for TFC.
You can't see me because I'm not on the video. You see me hugging that banana there, and there's a story to that. I can tell you that story later if you want. But I'm rocking right now. Like, I'm rocking and hugging myself because that's where we are with this game tonight. Like, I had an interview yesterday with Joshua from the Athletic about TFC book. He's writing a book about TFC. And at the end of that interview, I got to talking about the game tonight, and he has a quiet confidence, but I am terrified about going to that stadium tonight, Kevin. I am terrified. You cannot understand how scared I am about tonight because everything can go wrong tonight.
Yeah, but you have to remind yourself though that it's at BMO Field. There's only one team that beat Toronto in 2017 at BMO Field, and it was without Josie and without Giovinco. Unfortunately, that was the Montreal Impact in a game that turned out to mean absolutely nothing. But yes, there's
there's been two because the New York Red Bulls beat them last week.
Yes, but I don't believe when you know those home and away series where you win the game but you lose the series. For me, it doesn't count as a win. Yeah, you win the game, but guess what? You're still going home tomorrow. So I don't really register that as a win because you won the battle. Well, you won the war. Sorry. You might have lost the battle, but you won the war. Like, it's totally different. I don't see it as that. But you have that. You have Giovinco. You have Altidore. You have the team rested. You have Giovinco and Altidore rested. And I don't have the stats in front of me, and it's probably a good thing. But maybe it's just recency bias, or maybe it's just because it stands out. But when Altidore comes back from a layoff of a few weeks, usually he scores. Like, I think pretty much after every international break that he doesn't play, or after coming off of injury or a long layoff, he usually scores. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Altidore score tonight.
Yeah, look, here's what I said yesterday to Joshua from the Athletic. As I said, is that if TFC scores first, I think they win this game by multiple goals. We're doing the bounce in the stand from the 70th minute on type thing, and we built the house on Lakeshore 4. The Reds, that's the bounce. Anyway, if they don't, the longer this goes, the more terrifying it gets, and the more dangerous this gets. So it's really key tonight for a guy like Altidore, for Giovinco to get open and get a first half goal. I think, and if TFC does that, then I think that the skill and the overall talent advantage that TFC has will take over. Columbus will have to open up. TFC has too many weapons, and it will be like 4-1 type thing if they score first. But if they don't score first, if this gets late, if we're in the 70th minute and we're still looking for a goal tomorrow, the blank gets real at that point, and TFC's in trouble.
The struggle is real. Yeah, that's what
the struggle gets
right?
real. Sure.
That's the word that starts with S that you were looking for.
Yeah, exactly. Because I never swear on this show.
Yeah, we could. We would but we kind of don't want to, because when you do, it has more impact. So whenever we swear, it's because, well, it really hits the fan.
There you go. No, look. All this said, I also, having had that conversation yesterday about the history of TFC that started from 2005 and went forward, basically. The fact that we're 2 wins away in this city from winning MLS Cup, 2 home wins away. There will not be another road game this season. There will not be another day at the pub watching them on TV. We're going to be in the stadium the whole time. And if they win both of those games, they're champions, and they solidify themselves as the best MLS team of all time. And there's no doubt that's be honest here. Right? Even if you hate TFC, if you listen to this, you're from Vancouver or from wherever, in Montreal, for sure. You're listening to this and you don't like TFC. You can't deny that if they win MLS Cup and they win the treble, that is 3 trophies in a year. That's all that word means. If they have the all-time points record and they're champions at everything they did, you cannot deny that they will be the best MLS team of all time.
Duane, even more than that. The next spring, how many games will it take to get to the final, just in the knockouts of the CCL? 4, 5? Think of something
Yeah,
like
well,
that.
that will be the immediate focus. And I'm not gonna lie, I've been thinking about the CCL. I
But
don't talk
imagine,
about it a lot.
what I wanted to say is you've been to Kia Team Training Ground, and there's trophy cases empty with like names of the trophies that they won in, and just underneath. Well, maybe 7 wins away, not even, maybe 6 wins total away from all those trophy cases to be filled forever, and would have won everything or anything possible as a club in a 12-month period for its history. Like, there's no other trophies that they can win if they pull off the next 2 ones, which could be just 6 wins away.
Well, there's one other trophy they could win, but let's not be stupid.
Well, the Club World Cup, yeah.
Yeah.
If you notice, they didn't build a spot for that trophy because, well, Barca does.
Final score: TFC 3.
Barcelona
1.
528. We have a hat trick for Messi, but it's a hat trick of a hat trick with 33 goals. Jeez.
Yeah. The
right.
Club World Cup. Yeah.
You know, I'm interested. We didn't talk about this last week, but there's a rumor now. We'll just finish with the Club World Cup, and we'll take a break and come back with some bits and bytes. But Club World Cup might be played instead of maybe the Confederations Cup or something, but might be played like once every 4 years or once every 2 years to be propped up like an actual World Cup, you know? Maybe that's what we want. A Club World Cup where your club has to go through a qualification process. That's the ultimate Club World Cup. Never mind the Champions League in every continent. It makes for a convoluted and complicated. How many times have you explained to people when it was CONCACAF Champions League time, why do they play there? How did they get there? It's yeah, exactly. Can you imagine if it's the Mondial every 4 years? But it's the same, but with our club instead of our country. How about that?
That's like a FIFA thing, like FIFA the video game thing, where you have like all the best teams in the world play like a tournament. No, look, I don't mind that idea as a fan, but I'm not sure whether the players would. The key to anything like that is how much it matters to the players, and can you make a tournament like that matter to the players? Can they care about it? Can it be something they're passionate about winning? If it is, then yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, you give $100 million to the team who wins. Trust me, they'll want to win.
Yeah,
that's simple.
4 years, you have,
yeah.
Four groups of 4 or something, then you play a semifinals and a final. Yeah, that'd be fun for sure. And I'd watch it. I'd watch the hell out of that. But we'll see. At any rate, but TFC tonight. Let's hope they get this done because it'd be really, really. This final thought on that. I said this to a couple people. I've said this to anyone who will, like strangers on the subway. I say this to is like, look, they lose the MLS Cup final. That's sad. But I can deal with that because they got to the end again, and the insanity of it, one game and one loss and one bounce and all that sort of stuff, blah blah blah. But they lose tonight. Yeah, that's devastating. That's the worst situation I can think of. So tonight is very stressful. It's even more stressful than what MLS Cup final would be.
I can imagine you just sitting in the subway and like. So, ma'am, you know about TFC tomorrow night? It's gonna be dangerous, sir. I'm just trying to read. Can you let me read, please, sir? No, ma'am, you don't understand. Tonight, it's important.
There's like a subway card that's like full, but they're all pushed to one side, and I'm ranting about TFC in the middle. Yeah, that's pretty much.
People give you change passing by because they think that's what you're doing.
I'm okay with that. You want to hand me change, fine.
All right, let's take a break and come back with a little bit of Asun Kamara. Duane, it's a busy show, yes, but I want to take 2 minutes to play Asun Kamara's comments in English after his retirement press conference yesterday. He starts the press conference by informing people why he's retiring and the thinking process that got him to retirement. So let's take a short break and come back with Asun Kamara, now retired.
You are listening to Soccer Today. Follow us on Twitter at Soccer Today SPN and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Sports Podcasting Network.
Yeah, for sure. It has been a difficult year for me with 3 concussions. So I had the chance to talk with the doctor and to see where I was at. And we took the collegial decision to stop. to stop soccer for sure, but to try to stay healthy and to don't take any chances for the future and for my future. So it has been difficult, a tough decision, very difficult decision, but at the end I'm very grateful for what I did in the professional soccer, what I did with the club. I'm very proud, and I hope that I'm gonna help the soccer like the soccer helped me. So I'm very, very good with that.
Can you describe the relationship you had with the people in Montreal, with the fans, with the people at the club? That you now call Montreal your home. So can you describe the relationship you had with the club and the fans for those years?
Yeah, it has been amazing. Really, I had a special relationship with them. They give me a lot. They helped me when I had two different moments. They were always behind me to push me and to give the best of myself. So I'm very proud of that. I want to take them a lot to say thank you very much for what you brought to me. You have been amazing to me, and I will never forget that in my life for sure. So thank you very much.
What's your best memories as a player in Montreal?
My best memories, I have a lot of good memories. First of all, I share a lot of moments with all the players, so this is the most important thing for me. With the fans too, on the field, out of the field, and they helped me a lot to do what I had to do, and I'm very proud of that. So I want to thank everyone who helped me in this adventure, and I'm very happy of that.
And what's next for you now? You want to stay with the club? You want to build soccer complex? What's next for you in the next few weeks and months?
Yeah, for sure. The next step will be to take a good rest, because I need that. I'm gonna take holidays and to see where how I will feel, and then for sure I will have some will to do in my with my foundation for sure. But at the same time, I would like to work with the media for sure. To be an analyst can be something very nice. I will always stay an Impact Montreal ambassador. I'm very proud of that too. And yes, there's a lot of projects that I have, and I hope that I will have time to do it.
You want to open soccer complex for 5 against 5?
Yes, exactly. That's what I want to bring here. There's a lot of players who did that in Europe. So I want to help the team and the organization to find a way to connect with the young guys who are very skillful, very good to soccer, and to bring them a place where they can progress, they can show what they want to do. And it can be a good thing for me too to stay connected with the world of soccer. So I'm very proud of that. A lot of big names did that in Europe, as I said, like Zidane, like Neymar, like a lot of them, Ronaldinho. So I would like to be the guy in Montreal who do it. So this is a project that we're gonna start in February, I hope. But I want to go in the land like in NCT, like Quebec, like Ottawa, like Gatineau, and to expand the soccer at this level. So it's going to be a good project for me, a big project, and I'm very proud of that. Thank you, merci.
Duane, I want to take a short second here. Yes, a short second. To thank Asun Kumara. Merci, Asun, for all the years. There's as we do what we do, Duane, there's always a person that gravitates around us, and sometimes give us a little pat in the back when it's needed, and push us a little further down the same path we're on our way, and give us confidence. For me, it was Asun Kumara. A few times over the last few years, whenever I was down, whenever I felt I was not in my place, whenever I felt like I was just there and nobody give a damn, once, just without even knowing, probably, just passed behind me, just a little tap on the back, and just little comments like, what you guys do is a lot of times unappreciated, but it's important. Those words rain true to me pretty much once a week, and I have to say thank you, Asun. Like, just the running he did this year. I said the story yesterday, but merci, Asun, for all the little moments, all the little things, all the little behind the camera, in front of the camera. Asun is the same person, and I don't know him personally. I just had a chance to rub shoulders professionally, but thank you, Asun. Those little moments that you gave me confidence, or that you just validated what something I was thinking, or that you explained to me something, during an interview. Thank you, Asun.
Well, Marcia, indeed. Look, let me ask you this, Kevin. We talked about Patrice Bernier a lot this year, and he obviously was so associated with the impact in the city of Montreal in many, many ways, and Quebec, even if you expand it out further, in French Canada even. But Kamara, we didn't have a chance to really sort of talk about his impact, his role in the impact, what he his impact anyway. Can they change the name? Because Montreal should be called the Thunder. That's my side. But at any rate,
no, that's a terrible TV show. Come on.
Thunder. Anyway, just tell me what he meant to the club. Tell people that don't really know, that don't really follow the Impact as closely as you do, what Kamara meant to the Montreal Impact.
Not a superstar, but a player that never asked for anything, that just gave. He gave his time, his health. He just talked about 3 concussions over the last year. Some in the years prior too. Had big one against DC last year in the playoff. Gave of his time. Was there when the team needed him to be. 2013 Vancouver. It's 2-1. Montreal need to equalize to win the Voyageurs Cup for the first time since in Major League Soccer. After a drought of a few years. And he gets that equalizer in the 87th minute. Does a run with an iconic photograph and video now that went around Canada at least. Was able to entertain people. Always been open and willing with his time. Asun Kamara never asked for anything. But I think it's time we give him what he deserves. Asun Kamara is one of the smartest men I've talked to football-wise, able to break down strategies, tactics, and even a very good educator. He talked in his press conference yesterday how, maybe coaching in his future, but it's not something that he's actually seeing himself now. He doesn't have that coaching fiber inside of him as we speak. What he does have is that educator fiber, that go with the players, play with them for a few times, be with them and give them advice and show them some ropes and give them some tips and tricks. I really like the passion about the game that he's talking about. And even though he's going to have other projects, he's going to have a foundation that takes care of needed people in regions of Africa that is in need. And he's going to have some soccer complex project, and he has a restaurant in France. So he might have other projects here as well. But his love of the game and the fact that he knows he can't play anymore, it was very touching to see him react yesterday. And I don't think there's any other words to say thank you, Asun. And I'm kind of glad that he had his day, and I didn't want it to be unnoticed. And I hope that next year at Stade Saputo, at the beginning of the season, he comes before a game or at halftime or after a game to get his just due. Because being there since 2011, one of the MLS originals, and his story as a whole is impressive to me. Comes in here, it's minus 75 degrees or something in February. He doesn't know what he's expecting. He's arriving from France and used to play for Olympique Noisy-le-Sec, and he played a bit for Olympique Marseille. And he comes here, doesn't know what to expect. He comes to play for Montreal Impact in 2nd Division. It's cold, it's February. You're going to Brossard, a suburb of Montreal, and you don't know what you're going through. You're like, what am I doing here? But it all panned out. Was one of the few elected players from the NLSL roster to jump to MLS in 2012. The only one with Evan Bush, Patrice Bernier being hired. After that, there were the 3 last originals left from the original season in Major League Soccer. Now there's only Evan Bush left, and we'll see if he's actually with the club when the season starts. I have a feeling LAFC might be in his future. That depends on LFC, Bob Bradley. But
and it depends on Glenn Irvin or one as well.
Yeah, that's true, right? There's Glenn Irvin too. But I do feel Asun Kamara needs a bit more. And one thing he talked about, and I think it's important for our listenership because we have a lot of supporters listening to us, is relationship with their supporters. There's only a few players per club that gets their own song. And it's not because they're the best. It's not because, oh, you're so good, we're going to get you a song. It happens. Like Drogba had a song. Asun Kamara had a song because he deserved it. Asun Kamara had a song because he wanted to say thank you to the supporters almost every single damn time. I've seen him dropping in the supporters bar, say hello to people, and go on the road and make sure that the support. That's the type of dedication that Asun Kamara had, and that's why he had a song. Not because of the player, but because of the man, because of his dedication, and because of his love, not just for the sport, not just for the club, but for our city.
fair enough. And yeah, every club around the world has players like him, and I don't mean that despairingly. I mean in the sense that players that don't necessarily resonate beyond that city, but are very important to that city, and that's a valuable thing, and that's something that I think most players aspire to that aren't at the very top. And Kamara, as I said yesterday, it's going to be very different to watch the Montreal Impact as a rival and not have Kamara out there, because he's been part of the furniture for long. Like, he's been, the wallpaper. He's been just sort of in the background there forever. And, and that brings seat to him, as I said, and good for him for a good career.
And that brings up another issue that I don't think we talk a lot. I don't think we talk about it enough, and that's concussion in soccer. And some concussion blows with headers, and it's very dangerous. And that's one thing Kamara really talked about. And he's now interested in the subject, looking what's happening with Derrick Rose in the NBA, and with Alan Shearer in Newcastle that he talked about yesterday. With Alan Shearer's comments a few weeks ago, telling The Guardian how he's having difficulty just enjoying life right now with pain and repercussions of concussions. That's tough to say quickly. Repercussions of concussions? I don't suggest
concussions, yes.
Yeah, so there's a lot of talk that needs to happen, I think, in the world of soccer. And maybe that will be my parting words for today, Duane. Yeah, maybe we shouldn't do headers when we're 8 years old and like 20 headers in a row against the wall, hardest as I can, because we want to be able to control the ball. Yeah. Maybe we should wait till our neural pathways are fully developed before we start heading the ball heavily.
Yeah, and look, there's a lot of dinosaurs out there that's when they hear stuff like that, say, tough it up, your bell rung, blah, blah, blah. Speaking as someone who was concussed about 3 or 4 times as a kid because of sports and now loses his keys all the friggin' time, for instance, and I don't have any proof that has any relation, but I kind of think it might. We need to be better about that. Taylor Twellman's been on about this for a long time, and Kamara, if he can add to that, then good on him, and that'd be a valuable thing to do, and we absolutely do. Should we talk about Big Sam before we leave, though?
Yeah, Sam Allardyce has finally found a job. He's, Duane, to this day, he has the best win percentage of any English manager in the history of the sport.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, well, 100%, man. You can't beat that.
But now he's going to Liverpool, but on the blue side, the other side of Merseyside, and a new manager for Everton. Yeah,
look, couple things. This is kind of I don't think this is a great hire for them. I think this is a treading water hire. Big Sam is a guy that's probably going to right the ship there. They're not doing well, and they're in danger right now, going down.
Dwayne, is it the classic? All right, Sam, come in, make sure we don't get relegated, and then move on in the offseason.
And the Blue NBA would be kind of amused by seeing Wayne Rooney get relegated, but nonetheless, I'll leave that side well enough alone. Everton is a sleeping giant in many, many ways. Everton, Newcastle, those are the 2 clubs that I would say. Also, you see the West Brom Newcastle game the other day? Jesus, that was insane.
West Brom, by the way, Alan Pardew takes over today too.
Yeah, that was a crazy game. But at any rate, look, we see this in North America all the time, where they reset or retread all these managers back and back and back. And yeah, he'll probably right the ship a little bit, but is this what Everton needs to get to another level, to get to, as I said, I think they're a sleeping giant in the sense that if there's any club out there that has the potential to rise themselves up and compete, for maybe a Champions League spot down the line, and people may laugh when I say this, but I think Everton is that team that has that potential just because of where they are, their history. It's a club that should be better than it is. Obviously, they can't match the resources of their more fancied rivals, but I think they can match the resources of their crosstown rival if you look at it objectively. And I don't know if Big Sam's the right hire, but he's certainly the guy that likes a pint of wine. So, and why can't you cheer for a guy that has a pint of wine?
Yeah, can you imagine? No. All right. Big Sam with Everton. It's a long show today, Dwayne, but a lot of things happened since yesterday, and a lot of the things are going to happen until tomorrow, because tonight TFC is back. Columbus at BMO Field, the second leg of the Eastern Conference Final. And yes, Duane, now it's official. It hasn't lived up to the hype of 2016, the Eastern Conference Final. Last year was a lot better. It used to be better.
I don't think they're going to score 13 goals tonight, so it's going to be difficult to match last year. But yeah, we'll see what happens tonight.
And until tomorrow, as always, you can follow Duane on Twitter at 24th Minute and myself at Kev Laramee. You can find us on Twitter at SportsPodNet SPN. And have a great soccer.
You can find the podcast version of all the shows we do on iTunes, Apple Podcast, Google Play Store, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and anywhere you get your podcast.